This is AM 650's The Law Show with Sterling Fox. Now back to the show.
Talking family law on this edition of The Law Show here on AM 650 with our guests from Lindsay Kenney LLP in Vancouver, Angela Thiel and Christine Eilers in studio. And we're talking about all of these different methods for resolving family law disputes. And I guess, well, the ultimate weapon that is at the disposal of the system is the court. Right now, we've talked about probably half a dozen different methods of resolving disputes between individuals. But I would think, and we'll talk about this in two parts, I would think that because of the emotional levels involved, that there are simply some cases in which none of the other options are even worth considering. These people are so angry and so determined to go to court and have the battle royal that that's all they want. Angela, let's talk about the two parts of that. One, being so angry, you can't even see straight. You don't even want to talk about arbitration or mediation. I want that son of a gun in court, and I want that person flayed alive in court. You know the feelings. You've dealt with dozens, if not hundreds of cases like this. How do you diffuse the emotional quotient in this incredibly emotional context?
Sometimes by telling other people's horror stories anonymously.
Ah.
That is, you know, there's always someone who's worse off than you. And then, of course, we absolutely say, you need some counseling. You need some counseling.
Right.
One of the good things about the court option is that the courts put in some break points where you see a judge on a non-adversarial basis. The first thing is called a JCC. And if you get a good judge and you sort of signal to the good judge, what you kind of need the client to hear. In particular, one of my favorite lines is the judge that says, would you ask a stranger on the corner how to raise your kids? I'm just a stranger on the corner of Howe and Nelson.
Mm-hmm.
So if you get a good judge at that really initial stage, they really help you to...
That's a pretty sobering thought.
Oh, absolutely.
That'll take the wind out of your emotional sails, won't it?
And, we can say it, and I say it quite often as a lawyer. But when someone's standing across from a judge, and those are round table discussions, so that judge is like where Christine is, right beside me. And they look at them and they go, this is just an ordinary person. Mm-hmm. They have a law degree, but they're going to decide on my kids. Mm-hmm. And, some of the things that I may think are important, they may not think are as important.
Right.
So that is really helpful. I really find to get the emotions down, you have to focus on the kids.
Right.
You have to say this man is going to be part of your life or this woman is going to be part of your life for a lot of years. And you have to, one of the things that I usually say is, look, everybody parents differently. There's no right way and wrong way, except, there's the extremes.
Sure.
So if this man, this woman is not one of those extremes, the fact that, he doesn't believe in the gluten-free, healthy, vegan diet, now that you're separated, or the fact that, he lets them play video games that maybe you think are a little too violent.
Uh-huh.
And you hear a lot of that. And I find, fortunately, because I am a parent and having, I don't know that I've successfully raised my children, but they're raised. They're 19 and 22. In my marriage, I think I've dealt with all of those issues about kids.
Sure.
And so it's really familiar when someone talks about, but my ex-partner does this. Mm. And you can give them some access to resources and say, this is same shit, different day. Mm-hmm. But you really have to be very matter of fact about, I know this is upsetting you, but, children are, now they're 5, they're going to be 8 soon. There's going to be another thing to deal with.
Yep.
You have to get on an even keel with these things. Or find yourself a professional, not a lawyer. find yourself a parenting coordinator or a parenting coach that can help you work through parenting issues.
Now, these are professionals. You've talked about a divorce coach before. Now you're talking about a parenting coach. These are additional players, Christine, that come into the game when there's a marriage breakdown. It's not just lawyer A and lawyer B and the two parties who are going their separate ways. Frequently, other professionals, counselors, and coaches, apparently, of many descriptions, become involved. Why?
Well, lawyers are very expensive and unqualified to offer that kind of advice and
I offer it
assistance.
anyway.
Yeah, well, we get asked for it all the time, but
Right.
sometimes you think, you could hire a counselor for half the price that I'm talking to you, and they know what they're doing.
Sure.
So I think that's the main reason. I mean, it's just not the right forum to be dealing with it. We're lawyers. We're trained in the law. We can help them resolve their legal disputes. And I mean, yes, we try to be empathetic and we try to be compassionate, but that's not really what we're there for. We're there to get them a proper resolution at the end of the day.
And other professionals have expertise
They have
in other areas.
Yeah, they have different purposes. So
Okay.
you really need to hire the professional that you need for what your issue is.
Angela, you said that you try in many cases when you're dealing with a very emotional scenario, you try and emphasize the children to cause people to just put a little perspective into the whole thing because they're real mad. What happens when there aren't children and the anger level is just as high? And maybe there's a few bucks at stake.
Well, it's interesting. I don't find the anger level is as high in a relationship that doesn't have children.
Interesting.
Well, just because they know that when they end the financial dispute, it is over.
Right.
And so they're really not going to have to see that person again. And, everybody likes money, but people aren't prepared to really battle about money. At least most people. The battles I see are most often because of the kids. And then sometimes you have these battles where it's, and if there's no kids, you've told me what to do for the last 20 years, and
Right.
you're not going to tell me now.
Right.
I had one the other day where someone said to me, there was a change in lawyers, and one of the clients had allegedly said, my wife used to tell me what to do, and now you're letting her lawyer tell you what to do. I'm going to get a lawyer that, is strong and aggressive and assertive. So, threw up a process that might well have led to resolution because he didn't like what he felt in the negotiation room, that, he was being bullied, and it had to do with his view that, the wife had told him what to do.
Interesting.
And happens very often with women too, because there are a lot of women, I think more women than men, that feel that they were controlled in a relationship. So they want to fight that fight, again in a litigation context.
It's almost a battle for independence
Yeah.
on a new playing field, isn't it?
Often, and again, it's, go get the therapy and the counseling you need.
Right.
Because
Outside of court, for crying out loud.
Yeah.
because you can't use me as your surrogate for fighting the fight that that you want to have. The marriage is over, and let's make it be over as quickly, efficiently, and not in court if we can try.
Well, okay, now how frequently, this is just an Angela question, Christine, and you'll get your turn when you've been at it another dozen years, but how many times, because you're a kind of a feared gunslinger in the legal community, how many times do people come to you and say, I want you to take that guy down? My life has been miserable. You're a legend in your own time. I want you to go to court, and I want you to just fleece that guy because he deserves it.
It doesn't happen with me because my legend is that is not the type of lawyer I am.
Aha!
I mean, I can fight the fight where someone's doing something completely legally wrong. They're not paying their child support.
I didn't expect you would, but how many, do people come to you with that sort of malice of intent in their minds? Get in there and blow that turkey away.
Well, it depends on what he's doing. I mean, there's a certain type that I despise bullies, and male or female.
Okay.
So if I see that's happening, then I turn into the pit bull.
Okay.
But I'm mad at him, and I want you to drag him through a court fight. because I'm mad at him.
Right.
I'm just not that type of lawyer.
Right.
But give me he's not paying child support.
Right.
I will be in there in a heartbeat, and or not only he's not paying child support, but he's hiding his income, or he's doing he's doing something inappropriate. Those are the ones not paying child support. There's a certain time where a woman came to me and she said, this is happening. I can't afford to pay you, but could you just come out to court for me just on this first hearing? And I said, okay, I'll give it a try. Because usually on the first hearing, a judge can't do anything. Anyway, the guy was a little bit late, and we're all waiting, and he finally shows up, and I said, look, I'm just here to, could you just start repaying your child support? And he swore at me. And so anyway,
in front of the judge?
Oh no, this was outside the courtroom.
Oh, okay, all right.
Anyway, after we had the court hearing, and the judge suggested nicely he should pay his child support. I came out with a client, and the client said to me, I really appreciate you doing this for me, coming to this effort and acting for me pro bono. She says, thanks for coming to court. I says, oh, this won't be the last time we see you. He just bought you a lawyer for as long as it takes. Because
Angela, you shouldn't advertise that on the radio. Free lawyers.
But there's sometimes when a person just is so moved by circumstances that, where you go, huh?
Well, and ultimately he hired a lawyer, and the lawyer called me and said, so he thinks maybe he got off the wrong foot with you. Oh, yes, he did.
He certainly did. We'll take a quick break here, and when we come back, I want to talk about those, because we've discussed all sorts of methods of resolving disputes. Some of them clearly need the involvement of lawyers, and some don't. And then we'll talk about some of these where things really go south on you while you're trying to get some of these disputes resolved and keep the wheels turning. Our guests from Lindsay Kenney LLP in Vancouver, Angela Thiel and Christine Eilers. This is The Law Show on AM 650, and we'll be right back.
This is AM 650's The Law Show. There's more of the show still ahead.